Excuse me, Mr. David, would you like me to put some sugar in your coffee?
No! No! No!
Hey guys, I think I found a video to... Oh no.
Sun is shining in the sky. There ain't a cloud in sight. It stopped raining. Everybody's in the lake. And don't you know, it's a beautiful new day. Hey, running down the avenue. See how the sun shines brightly in the city.
Hey everyone, man, it's been a while since I made a video. Couple months, in fact. I went on grand adventures, swam through the thousands of seas, slayed minotaurs and werewolves, and even did the impossible. Order from a Denny's and ate the meal. And I figure a good way to get back into this would be to revisit our old friend, Gligar13 Vids. Today, Gligar is going to be pissing off a lot of people by talking about how much Legend of Zelda: The Ocarina of Time is a terrible game.
Because trolls are satanic Nazis. I've done plenty of videos on them, so I know what I'm talking about.
And he's also going to be lying to his audience at one point. I'm going to be pointing out exactly when that is. But enough rambling out of me. Let's get started, shall we?
Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be reviewing another lame-ish game for the Nintendo 64.
And by that, I mean I'm going to be bitching about another game that I've barely ever played, just so people on the internet will give me attention, like this jackass who's making fun of this video and feeding directly into exactly what I want. You're not being self-deprecating, you're being an idiot. Why would you make this video if that is what he wants? Ooh, right.
The Legend of Zelda: Ocarina of Time. Now, basically, from what I know when this game came out,
when I was 2 years old. And that matters? No, really, how does his age matters? Just because he wasn't aware of what was going on at the time, that doesn't mean that he can't still like something that's older than he is. But even then, he was saying the fact that the game received acclaim when it was released. He didn't say that he was there when it was released. So if your excuse was that it was a joke, which is too underwhelming to be funny, it still wouldn't make any sense.
it was heralded as the best game ever. This was in 1998.
And I'm going to be unfairly judging it by modern standards.
It's been released 5 times. On the N64, twice on the GameCube, Virtual Console, and of course the 3DS version. It's still the same game, but one of the GameCube versions had additional levels. It doesn't matter though, because this game is still bad.
Well, bad according to Gligar13 and his infinite knowledge of video game critique.
And bad according to millions of other people around the world who legitimately don't like the game. You do realize that some people find this game to be overrated, right?
So, how bad is this game?
Not at all. In fact, it's really, really good.
Now, the N64 wasn't that great of a system.
Yeah, well, you know, that's just like, your opinion, man.
Laughing soundtrack.
And while we're on the subject, I do find that ironic that you used the clip where the dude says it's only your opinion, because wouldn't that same logic apply to you when you said it was a really good game as if it was fact?
It came out in 1996.
Dude, can you back away from the microphone? The feedback is really starting to get annoying.
I mean, it sounds terrible, and it's really distracting and annoying. Unless that's what you're going for, which I wouldn't be surprised.
Did you really need to point that out? He only did that on literally the last word of that sentence.
Because it's Nintendo, and Nintendo loved to stay in the past. This would be a tradition that would carry on of Nintendo liking to stick in the past. From the GameCube, with its mini discs and lack of online, to the Wii, and of course, not only that console's horrible online, but the fact that the Wii was merely an overclocked GameCube.
Yeah, you're right about that. The Wii was basically just a GameCube on steroids with motion controls.
Aren't we supposed to be reviewing Ocarina of Time and not hardware that Nintendo put out afterwards?
Well, if you would stop interrupting him, he would get to it. Or, I don't know, skip this part entirely.
And from the looks of it, it looks to continue with the Wii U. But now let's talk about the actual game.
Oh god, finally!
The game came out in 1998, the same year Half-Life 1 and many other games did. This should give you a good indication of what the graphics were like at the time.
So what? Graphics from 1998 look old. What's your point?
The fact that the graphics on Ocarina of Time were below average in comparison to other games at the time, which is a legitimate problem since it can lead to all sorts of bugs, and if Assassin's Creed 3 doesn't prove that point further, then I don't know what does.
Now keep in mind, the Dreamcast was going to come out a year later and outdo this game, even though the Dreamcast's graphics weren't that great.
Well, when you judge it by the standards of today, they aren't, but, you know, when you judge them by the standards of their own time, they were pretty okay. Really, what you're doing is very similar to if you were to say Toy Story, the original Toy Story looks like crap when you compare it to Avatar. Of course it does. It was made then, and technology has made great leaps forward since. It's sort of an unfair comparison. And really, when you really think about it, Toy Story was a far, far, far better movie than Avatar, despite the fact that Avatar was prettier.
Okay, I know that this is a nitpick, but why are you comparing a CG animated film to a live action film? Wouldn't it make more sense to compare Toy Story to something like How to Train Your Dragon, How to Train Your Dragon 2, Frozen, or any other CG animated film from the last decade and a half?
And of course that frame rate, which is about 15 FPS, and drops a whole lot.
Which was sort of a problem with cartridge games. You know, you had too much stuff on screen and the frame rate drops a little bit. It was the same with a lot of disc-based games as well. It's not really that huge of a problem unless it actually starts affecting the gameplay and making the game harder to play because of it. And it really doesn't with Ocarina of Time at all. So your argument here isn't really all that valid.
Because you have an overgeneralizing opinion on the game. Plus, what if his game dropped frame rates? I mean, we are talking about a game that's like almost 20 years old at this point, so maybe the game will drop frames. Or at least his game will. Of course, that is looking past that he is a
So you start the game, and you get to see the world's deepest plot ever.
Okay, Miyamoto games were never really all that heavy on plot. He wanted his games to have the most unobtrusive plots you can find so that you could just get into the game and start playing and enjoying it without having like a heavy narrative getting in the way. So of course the plot's not going to be all that great. It's Miyamoto. That wasn't his point. That wasn't what he was going for.
But does that excuse the fact that the game is too simple and repetitive with its main story objective? Of course not.
Because the N64 got all the crappy platformers.
You know, Gligar, I keep forgetting that you have terrible taste. I'm sorry.
While the PS1, well, that got the good games.
Like Bubsy 3D. Alright, look, I know that was a cheap shot, but, you know, as much as I love the PS1, I have to say that the Nintendo 64 generally had better platformers. It's just something Nintendo generally did better than their competition.
But he didn't say that the PS1 had all the good platformers now, did he? He said that the PS1 got the good games in general, which, if you compare the libraries of the PS1 and N64, the PS1 did have games that people generally love and remember a lot more in comparison to the N64.
You think there'd be voice acting? No. The N64 sucked and most games didn't have voice acting.
Because voice acting is what makes a game good. I mean, look at Final Fantasy X. That game had amazing voice acting, and it's a really good game. For the record, I really don't like Final Fantasy X at all.
And a lot of people do like Final Fantasy X. Your point?
No, I actually don't think that good video game voice acting was invented until like 2002 or so. But I would also like to point out that on a cartridge-based game, you usually couldn't fit the amount of data that would be required to have a fully voiced dialogue throughout the entire game, especially for a game with as much dialogue as Legend of Zelda: The Ocarina of Time.
Conker's bad for a day. That is all.
So you have to mash the A button, but you can't speed through what they're saying. You have to suffer this all so slowly. Seriously. So when you start the game...
Holy crap! Actual gameplay footage! I want to point out right now that at this point in his video, we are 4 minutes and 35 seconds in. About halfway through, and he finally decides to put in gameplay footage in his game review.
I mean, it's all like he talking about the presentation or the story or... Wait, he actually did.
And why does it matter to you? It's a game review, not a fucking Let's Play video. A game review doesn't require gameplay footage. All that really matters in a review is that you share your opinions of said game. Jeremy Johns and Chris Stuckman never show gameplay, and I find their reviews to be much more insightful and interesting than the reviews from professional game critics such as IGN, GameSpot, Game Trailers, Game Informer, the list goes on. For the record though, I really like IGN's review that are not on Call of Duty, and I think people give IGN way too much shit.
The frame rate sucks. Yes. This is the actual frame rate. This isn't some laggy computer. No, this is on the real hardware.
Liar! That is not on the original hardware, and I can actually prove that. You see, it showed at the start of the video, when he was at the title screen, when he starts the game, it doesn't go to the choose a save file screen. It goes directly into the opening cutscene. There are two possibilities here. One, he has a copy of Legend of Zelda: The Ocarina of Time that didn't have any save files on it, which would mean, more than likely, that he got a copy of it that was complete in the box, sealed, still in the shrink wrap. That costs way more money than anyone who just wants to play the game would be willing to invest, especially if they're just buying it so they can review it and throw a bitch fit about how bad it is to get attention. Now, the other possibility here, possibility number 2, is that Gligar is using an emulator. Whether that be some Nintendo 64 emulator, or the Wii Virtual Console, is sort of irrelevant, because he's saying that he's using the actual original hardware, and he isn't. Because, I might be wrong here, and correct me if I am, if you were to play Ocarina of Time on the Nintendo Wii or Wii U via Virtual Console, it wouldn't have the Nintendo 64 buttons up there on the display of what buttons to press. It would have the Wii buttons on there. He's using a computer emulator. Not that there's anything wrong with using a computer emulator. That's perfectly fine. I do it myself fairly often. But the fact is, he just said that he's using the real hardware. And I just proved to you that more than likely, almost certainly, he is not using the original hardware. Gligar, you are a liar.
Huh. You know what? I have actually never noticed that before. Thank you for showing actual proof that Gligar is in fact using an emulator and not the original N64 hardware. With that said, that's kinda Gligar's goal anyway, since he is a...
This is the actual frame rate. The frame rate sucks balls.
Let me explain why that is to you, Gligar. Because
But even by N64 standards, these aren't that impressive. I mean, seriously? Just look at all that blurry ass puke. That's the actual graphics.
No, those are the actual graphics when you record them on an imperfect emulation via something like, I don't know, Hypercam or Cam Studio, and you don't turn the video quality up to the point where you can actually get the footage to look good.
Huh, funny. Either I need my eyes checked again, or those graphics from Gligar's video looks rather decent.
Yeah, that's seriously what the gameplay is. The gameplay is very repetitive, and it's just boring and all drawn out.
Huh, sounds familiar. You know, I know why that sounds familiar. Because that's what you are.
And this is coming from a guy who's taking Gligar serially and making a video about him in 2014.
After this game, every Zelda game has been the exact same since.
Yes, most have been very similar, but I'd like to point out that Minish Cap, Phantom Hourglass, Spirit Tracks. Now, Link Between Worlds wasn't released by the time that Gligar made this video, so I'm going to let that one slide. But I'm not going to let those others slide, because he said that Every Zelda game since Ocarina has been exactly like Ocarina.
True, there are different aspects here and there, but Zelda games for the most part are always the same since we basically get the same plot over and over again. And the same can be said about every other Nintendo trademark franchise.
He's like, what is he doing? He's like, it's like he's pushing in. I'm not this is really in the game. This isn't a mod. This is the actual stuff.
Okay, Gligar, the joke wasn't funny to begin with. Now drop the joke and move on to your actual quote-unquote critique of the game.
What the hell? And what the heck is the kid there doing? Is he masturbating in the grass?
It's still not funny, Gligar.
Okay, this is something that Ryan pointed out to me one time, and I think this is very true in this case. But humor is subjective, is it not? Wouldn't it be possible for other people to find something that you personally don't find funny to be funny? And if anything, I found those two jokes to be funny since I have never seen any gameplay of Ocarina of Time until I saw Gligar's video. But then again, I usually find Gligar's videos to be funny anyways because of the...
Just no.
Yeah, my thoughts exactly, kid.
Let me mention one more thing. The music. The music is kind of meh-ish. I mean, it's just like elevator music, bland and forgettable.
You brought this up in your Mega Man X review, and I have to ask you again, do you know what elevator music sounds like? Because this doesn't sound like the smooth jazz you hear on an elevator in your doctor's office.
He didn't say it sounded like elevator music. He said that it's like elevator music in the sense that it's bland and forgettable.
Like many N64 games.
Right, because no Nintendo 64 game ever had a good soundtrack.
Oh my fucking God. You know, you could've done that without slowing the whole fucking video down like you just did.
Don't buy it. Save your money. Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.
No.
My final thoughts are...
Ready?
I lived a full life.
Who's been drawn next?
エゲノタル、あなた方まさあなたは念じすか。
夏は私はもて踊れねんぜすか。
しかし、エゲノタル、あなたはめ私を打ち負かすのに十分とくねくにゃ。いや、ない限り。
召喚合唱。
違う。ではアフリカそれにそんいるあなたをつかましょう。私はスーパーマンです。
I can't believe Gasho is fucking dead.
Can't believe David's fucking dead. Can't believe Gasho's fucking dead. Can't believe I'm fucking dead. Can't believe everyone's fucking dead.